We are 3 weeks into the NFL season, 1/6 of the way through the regular season. And after one very long week of much panic surrounding rookie running backs are once again the key to fantasy football. This is Stat Chasing.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar. Alpha play chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally this boys. You're right.
Well, Dricko, if not for it being Jover in week 2, how could we ever be Barack in week 3?
Yeah, it is crazy. I think the way I put it was we had a State of the Union address. The industry had a state address on the rookie running backs, and it turns out all you have to do was wait for week 3.
Yeah,
it's pretty phenomenal. Like that's on the early side of the timeline for somebody's like day 3 running backs to be hitting this well.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's very ironic that, I mean, in recent memory, for me at least, this was the year where we had, I feel like, the largest amount of panic on rookie running backs. I don't know I feel like it's a confluence of factors. Like, I think that as like every year, more and more people are getting, like, the industry is growing. We've seen the number of max entry drafters in Best Ball Mania nearly double over the last 2 years. So, like, the people who are taking fantasy football seriously and being plugged in is growing substantially over the last couple of years. So as that pool of people grows, I think you're bound to get, a big group of those people that they're just new here. Like, they haven't been around the block. They don't know this is how it goes. And so it's really easy for newer.
I actually don't think it's just the people who are new to fantasy football. I think just people in general, people who've been playing a long time, just very anchored to the most recent week. What have you done for me lately? I honestly, I think that's what drove the week 1 and week 2. But some of it as well is going into this year, we had a unique dynamic where everybody was saying, hey, this is the best rookie running back class we've had in a long time. And correspondingly, the prices were the most expensive for rookie running backs that I, especially relative to the veterans that I can remember. And so people were paying those prices somewhat with the expectation that, like, you had a floor early on. And so there was a real feeling of rug pull when those immediate floors weren't materializing. But clearly, the ceiling by week 3 kind of makes up for that.
Yeah, I definitely think that plays a role in it as well. Just the hype around this rookie class and how built up it was by people. I think what you were also saying, but you were too polite to spell it out exactly in this way, is that we as a society have gotten dumber over the last couple of years. And so we're just so much, anchored to this recency bias. And, like you said, what have you done for me lately? Like, zero ability to zoom out on the chart and think critically. Maybe
I'm going to be even more cynical than that. Was society ever smart?
No. But I mean,
now I think maybe there's a bit of nostalgia that we used to be smarter. I think what I'm saying is I think we were always this dumb.
Yeah, maybe it's, looking at the past through rose-colored glasses and saying, like, oh, we weren't as bad about overreacting to stuff like this in the last couple of years. It's gotten worse lately. I do think it's gotten worse. I think a big part of it is also just, like, as social media progresses, like, everything is getting social media-ified. Everything is getting transformed into these, like, the more clickbaity, like, the less actual deep substance you have to your content, and the more, like, immediate, how can I consume this in 10 seconds or less, like, quick reaction, snap take type stuff is just how it feels like the majority of people are consuming information now. And so I think that has a little something to do with it as well. But that's enough.
Well, I was going to say, I have one other thing. I do think some of it is there is certainly an increased sophistication in the way the mainstream is looking, and even like sharp people are looking at fantasy football, and where it's like underlying usage trends, which are supposed to be stickier. Oftentimes we've seen on the show they're not, but they're supposed to be stickier. So when those underlying usage trends are bad, that feels so much worse than, oh shit, my guy he only got 3 targets and he didn't catch a touchdown this game. Like, maybe he'll get 5 targets next week, or 6 or 7. That there's probably the increased sophistication probably means people are more even overly certain about week-to-week outcomes now.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Well, that's enough commentary on society. We'll get to the quarterback chart here. We won't get into how Tylenol has impacted the critical thinking ability of fantasy football drafters.
Yeah. So as usual, we start off with the quarterback chart, and it's kind of like we're trying to combine efficiency. So we've got efficiency of passing on the vertical axis. We've got kind of like rushing yard ability in the size of the bubble, and then dropbacks per game on our horizontal axis, as they're kind of like look at what quarterbacks are getting volume, what kind of volume are they getting. And so probably not the sexiest opener, but the one thing that kind of does surprise me is that Rattler continues to handle a high volume of dropbacks. The efficiency is not great. It's honestly not very good. But I think relative to the expectations, where Olave was going was going incredibly cheap for the talent of Olave. Shaheed was late. Like Juwan Johnson, we were getting reports that Juwan Johnson was going to be a full-time player for the Saints. Remained in the last rounds, even in tight end premium. So like the people were extremely, extremely down on the Saints offense. And it does seem like it's ending up being kind of functional, which I think is interesting. It's probably not good enough that what I'm telling you right now is usable until you get like a softer matchup. But I think they do have a soft match. I think they play the Dolphins. And they played the Giants, not this week, next week. And then they do have the Dolphins on their schedule November 30th. So I just something that struck me. And then what else did we have here? The other kind of note I had was that the lines are rolling. We were kind of pretty worried week 1 after they got curb stomped by the Packers. Like, I remember we were talking about like, hey, they lost their coordinators, that their center retired. They have some rookies that aren't playing so well. Where now they absolutely they put ladder to butt on the Ravens last night. Yeah,
I did want to touch on Rattler very briefly.
Sorry, I rolled into the next one too quickly.
No, that's okay. I agree with you that Rattler, given like a soft enough matchup, they play with enough pace that basically what you're trying to get out of Rattler is like, can I run really hot on touchdowns for the Saints? Which like that's already a big ask because they're not a great offense. Like, for example, now the Seahawks tough defense, right? Like it was a tough matchup for them. But Rattler's grades on PFF were pretty terrible. He had a grade of 42.3 on the week as a passer, so not particularly good. He's pretty low ADOT guy. So it's not looking fantastic. He did have a good completion percentage, but again, that's kind of a function of the ADOT. So I think that the call of, hey, Rattler can be useful in these games where he gets a softer defense, I think is correct. The nice thing that you have going for him is it's not like some quarterbacks where, they need to have a good matchup not only from like a defensive side, but they also need an offense to push them. The push them requirement is not there for the Saints. The Saints will just throw the ball a bunch of times. It doesn't really matter. Like that's what Kellen Moore wants to do. They've been consistent with how many dropbacks they're seeing per game. Rattler's going to get a lot of opportunity, so you just want those good matchups.
Some of the stuff is honestly kind of nutty. So their pass rate over expectation through 3 weeks is -4, which that kind of makes sense if you're the Saints. But then they have the fastest snap rate in total, not neutral game script. They have a 29% no huddle rate, and then if I set that to neutral, they also have the fastest, by far the fastest, pace on neutral. They've it's actually kind of it's kind of nutty too. They have a 22.4 second per snap on just total. The next highest is the Cowboys with 24.6. For some reason, it actually goes down to 20.5 in neutral. I'm putting that down to small sample size. Like that doesn't quite make sense to me. But it's not just that they're playing fast; they're playing way faster than everybody else. Like 30% of their plays are no huddle, and -4% PROE is not great. But then when you consider that they're not a great team, like that still means that they're passing 62% of the time. I the PFF grades are interesting. His actual observed statistical efficiency is not that bad. It's really his ADOT is 7.4, and that's getting the ball out pretty fast. It's on a high drop back count. His O-line is dog shit. So the ADOT and time to throw is probably not getting any better. But I think probably the most usable thing from it is the absolute mega discount on Olave was we already felt that was incorrect. But I think you can raise the floor on Olave a lot more confidently than you could before. And I think that's pretty relevant for the rest of the season stuff, where there's a resurrection and stuff like that. Olave should be going much higher. Should probably be going 2 rounds higher than he was in BBM.
Yeah, I agree with the general direction of the sentiment. 2 rounds is probably a little too much, just because I really think that he's a dog to score 5 touchdowns this year, given their overall team situation. They're just not going to have a lot of opportunities to score points this year, it looks like. I'm
more thinking he was probably undervalued by a round already. And so if you take out some of the floor, I'm just adding an extra round. So in my head, I guess I'm anchoring the FFPC where he's going in the 8. Maybe he was going in the 7 in the underdog.
A guy that I wanted to touch on that's right next to Rattler on the chart. Believe it or not, this guy is the current leader in the league in big time throws by a decent clip. Now, his big time throw percentage is not the top, but it's near the top. It's one of the top 3. But he has so many attempts that he's getting a lot of big time throws off, and that's Dak Prescott. Dak seems set up to be a really strong positive regression candidate. The unfortunate timing of the whole thing is that's probably going to have to wait until CeeDee Lamb gets back. But Dak has 11 big time throws on the year so far, and those do set up pretty nicely for big fantasy spike plays, because those are throws further down the field, into tight windows, with excellent ball placement. Those are throws that can generate big splash plays for fantasy. And so
Dak is going to have to throw aggressively a lot this year.
Yeah.
And so you're going to, I remember it wasn't maybe it was last year, some last year and some the year before, where the defense is so dog shit. They have to throw so much, so aggressively all game. Even when he doesn't play very well, he can still put up 25 points just because he had to get so many attempts in.
Yeah, I like me personally, how I'm playing it. I'm not terribly excited to be playing Dak while CD is out because he's just such a big part of that offense functioning efficiently. I'm certainly not
the
excited.
difference between him and Pickens is so stark. It's so stark.
Yeah. I'm not excited to play Dak into the Packers. I'm also not really terribly excited to play him into the Jets even. 3 weeks out from now, they get the Panthers, though, and then they get the Commanders after that. Those are probably games where I doubt CD's back by then because it's been reported as a high ankle sprain for CD. But those are both teams where that could set up as a really, really good spot for Pickens and for Dak. So I'm circling.
Are you picking on the Panthers this year? I'm having a little bit more trouble there because they seem to have given teams a good amount of trouble.
I mean, they only gave Penix trouble, right?
No, I remember people talking about I guess it's the Jaguars was a bad game, and I forget who they played in week 2.
Yeah, they played the absolutely terrible Cardinals. Like the Cardinals are not good, and the Cardinals still did just fine against them. So the Panthers have not played any real teams yet. They've played like relegation level teams. Like for example, you get Drake Maye against the Panthers this next week. That's a great show everyone who the Panthers really are type matchup. Like Drake Maye looked phenomenal this last week. Like we can segue into Drake Maye. I just from watching the game from Drake Maye, he's making very strong throws into the splash zone with absolutely barren cupboards of receiving talent. Like he has no help from his receivers. Hunter Henry, they built the plane out of Hunter Henry this last week, and Drake Maye is still out there just hucking absolute darts. Like he is putting balls exactly where they need to be. He looks great. The biggest problem for Drake Maye right now, like the thing that's holding him back, is he still takes some pretty bad sacks. He took 5 sacks in this last game, and I don't really expect that problem to go away because it's a multi-factor problem. Number 1 is the offensive line. Number 2 is Drake Maye is just down to take sacks. that's the unfortunate truth of it. But man, you get him in a spot where he's got a softer matchup, and the lack of receiving talent matters a little bit less. And I really think that you could see fireworks from him. He's a pretty exciting one for me. I had this comparison that I made where we can very briefly talk about this guy because we talked about him the last 2 weeks, but Justin Herbert is the absolute fucking man this season. Like I told you last week, like just slam Justin Herbert like over and over every week. It's kind of like the CJ Stroud rookie year where I said, hey, this is going to win a Millie Maker. Just keep playing it every week. And then it did just a couple weeks later. It's the same thing for Justin Herbert. Just play Justin Herbert literally every week. He's going to be making tournaments in short order. They're just passing so much, and he is so good. But Justin Herbert is the Charizard to Drake Maye's Charmander. Like he is the fully evolved form. He runs like Drake Maye, not quite as much as Drake Maye, but like he's getting there. They're similar enough. It's not, I don't think that the comp breaks down there. And then Herbert and Maye both, are excellent passers where Herbert is just like a little bit more developed, doesn't take quite as many bad sacks. He also has a better offensive line to support him there and better receiving weapons. But those two are like very similar archetypes to me. Those are the 2 quarterbacks that I want to be targeting aggressively for a daily fantasy going forward.
Yeah, the only thing I 100% agree with you on Herbert. He's just an every week play. We went into pretty good detail last week on that. But the only pushback I have on Maye last week is I do think the Steelers are a defense to pick on. Like they got picked on by the Jets in week 1. Like an overall bad Patriots offense was kind of humming against them. And then I'm drawing a blank on who they played in week 2, but I think they got kind of beat up in week 2 as well. I do think
the Patriots played Miami in week 2, and they did fine. They just
sorry, the Steelers got beat up.
Yeah, no, the Steelers don't look like as formidable of a defense. But I mean, I don't really know what else you want Drake Maye to do. Like he had, obviously take fewer sacks, please. But he threw for 268 yards at 7.2 yards per attempt, 75% completion percentage, 47 dropbacks, 37 attempts, puts up 2 touchdowns. And then the previous week against
he had a solid fantasy game. And the Patriots, obviously, they only got 14 points, but that's because they committed 5 turnovers.
Yeah, it was a huge amount of turnovers. They have the 4 fumbles. It's like what can you do? Really, I mean, you're
no. I'm not criticizing Maye. I'm just saying, like, it's not like he just had this great game against a good defense, and in the future he's gonna play the Panthers, who are bad, and gonna do so much better. That's the only thing that I'm.
No, yeah, I mean, I do think that the Panthers have a weaker. Like the one thing the Steelers have going for them is the pass rush, and the Panthers definitely do not have that. So I think that's kind of like a pretty big turning point, or like a linchpin for the Patriots. Is like, hey, we can't protect our quarterback. We're super vulnerable to pass rush. And so I do think that's a pretty big positive for them going into Carolina. So Maye is definitely one that I want to target. I also think that just with the way that the running back stuff has shook out over the last couple of weeks, where Ramondre's had a consistent fumbling problem, they came out and explicitly said, we are going to change up how we're distributing running back touches. And then that meant, hey, actually, it's more Antonio Gibson. You idiots thought it was TreVeyon Henderson. It's not. It's Gibson. And so they've done that. They've tried that already. It really has not worked. Like Ramondre had 2 fumbles. Gibson had the fumble. And so you end up with them going back to TreVeyon Henderson pretty heavily at the end of this last game. And I think that's going to shape the way that they game plan for this next week, where they're just less willing to rely on the running backs because they're clearly not willing to rely heavily on TreVeyon Henderson yet. And they're rapidly losing confidence in both of their other backs because of the recurring fumbling issues. So I do think it's a really good spot to say, hey, they might put a lot more on Maye's plate. And I mean, if you look at the 53 dropbacks in week 1, they go down to 31 dropbacks in week 2 when they've expressly said, hey, we're going to do more in the running game. And then they're right back up to 47 dropbacks in week 3. I just wouldn't be surprised to see another 50 dropback game from them.
They're not a great team overall. So you are going to get a high dropback count in most weeks, I think, from the Patriots. And then the other thing about Henderson, even though it took them until like the second half to really get Henderson going, he still had a 48% snap rate in week 3. So if you can, like, if you got a 60% snap rate, so that's kind of like maybe a little bit more than last week, because they maybe they put some trust in the other 2 guys like that. I do think that probably helps them on the receiving stuff at the very least. That helps Maye. I guess I don't want to get too much into running backs, but that could be a big boost to Maye having Henderson as a receiver.
Yeah, I think they're not super thrilled with Henderson as a rusher. I mean, his rush yards over expected are unfortunately very bad. He was like negative 30 something or maybe negative 40 rush yards over expected. It's quite bad, like among worst in the league levels. So that seems not great, but they're also not shy about using him as a receiver. And we just talked about how terribly the Patriots need help in the passing game. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Henderson get more work and have it be heavily utilized in the passing game. Just they need help there. They've got to figure something out there.
Yeah, so I agree with you where Henderson has been, and we're getting into running back stuff. But Henderson has been pretty bad on rushing stuff, but it's only 19 attempts.
Right,
he was so good in college, like so good.
No, I'm not. I'm certainly not calling him, done in that department or saying anything like that. I'm just trying to think through it from from the messaging that we've gotten from the coaching staff already, where, hey, we're not pleased with what's happening in the running game. And then that translated to, we actually want to use more Antonio Gibson. And then again, they really are like, it seemed like they were intentionally using less TreVeyon Henderson week 3. Gretsch wrote about this at Signals. He thinks that it's because of poor pass blocking reps that Henderson had in week 2. And he did have some bad ones that I saw. So I think that they might still have some things where they're just uncertain on him. And so they're not wanting to like fully lean on him for stuff, but I think it's pretty clear that he's a very talented receiver. So that, to me, it's like, what's the path of least resistance for the coaching staff to be like, well, we feel good about putting this guy out here for this type of thing. And it's like, you could definitely, I mean, shit, you're not losing anything putting TreVeyon Henderson out there to run routes instead of any of the other bums you have. So that to me is like, maybe he just sees a bunch of routes next week, and that's kind of how you get there on him.
Right. Right. I mean, like I said, he had a 50% snap rate last week. Even with the coach's hesitation on them, he ended up being the one that they actually trusted last week.
Yeah, I mean, their hand got forced with all the fumbles. So, but yeah,
and I guess I'm expressing some optimism that maybe they trust him again next week. But I guess we'll see. But again. Let's go back to
let's finish up quarterbacks here. There's 2 more that we had notes on. One, I think it's important to note the shift of play calling for the Eagles. So the Eagles play calling was just, I mean, par for the course so far on the season through the first half of the game against the Rams. It was just atrocious. Like, I think they ran something like 22 first half plays for 33 total yards. Just refusing to pass the ball still, for like inexplicably, just we don't want to pass. Then finally they start passing, and all of a sudden the offense they begin passing vertically, and it starts working. Drico, who could have seen this?
Yeah, so it's like you have AJ Brown, you start throwing it to AJ Brown, and all of a sudden good things happen.
Yeah. Well, and then the throwing.
I saw after the game where the head coach like gave him a hug, and AJ Brown was like so relieved. Like it's really crazy stuff. The one thing that I have, the one thing that makes me a little bit more hesitant on the Eagles is like the only reason they threw it, and to me the only reason is because they had to. They were down a couple of scores, and they had to throw it. I guess you can maybe see a scenario where they're like, oh, maybe it worked. We actually succeeded when we did this. Maybe we need to do this more often. But I do think they see their identity as being a run the ball team.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you there. I'm cautiously optimistic that they might have realized like we can still have our identity be running the ball. But boy, this passing thing does in fact score points. Because I mean, the whole offense.
We need to show to AJ Brown.
And then the whole offense worked better. Not just the pass plays to AJ Brown were good, but it was like, oh, and now Dallas Goedert's running open down the seam for like a walk-in touchdown. Oh, now Devonta Smith is able to get one-on-one coverage, inside the green zone, and he gets an easy route for a touchdown. Now the running game is easier to execute. So it flows through, and I'm hoping that they're able to pick that up. So really, I just wanted to call out Hurts as like, he's one where I think that you could be set up for like a really monster game. You always have the huge game potential with the tush push. You've got really, really good rushing TD equity there. But if you can, I also think that it's kind of a thing where, if we're going to see an increase in pass rate, that's something where we could use it as an advantage over the market. Like, this is probably the spot for it. Like, you're probably not going to, if they start increasing their pass rate and they're consistent about it, and they're not just like this we're going to run the ball and like every once in a blue moon we'll throw a pass type of teams, then like people are going to get onto it pretty quickly. It's not going to take long for people to be excited to play Jalen Hurts again. So I feel like this next week is kind of the spot where you've got to shoot your shot on it. I'm not saying like put all the chips in the middle on it, but to me, it seems like a spot where it's worth going after.
It could be an inflection point.
Yes, thank you. That's much better put, more succinctly than I was trying to do.
No, I think what I said only makes sense in the context of what you said. So we're saying the same thing. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Caleb Williams. It's so funny to me because like when you look at Caleb Williams' accuracy rating, it's like dog shit. Like he is not an accurate passer, but you layer in that they have like an enormous drop back count for him, that he runs the ball, so he's 32 rushing yards a game. He's one of the highest. Like you were talking about big time throw percentage. Caleb Williams has a pretty big time throw percentage, and it's kind of interesting that their O-line is actually very good now. Like their pass block win rate per ESPN is 5th in the league. They've the 11th best pass blocking, and per PFF. And so you combine the I guess fast man throw deep with the drop back. I think there's a pretty good floor and ceiling combo here for Caleb Williams. And like we've seen Rome Odunze, he's been the major beneficiary. We saw Luther Burden post a massive monster game albeit against the Cowboys on like a 30% route share. I don't want to get over my skis after they just like beat up on a pretty weak defense, but it does seem like there's a lot there with the Bears offense, like despite the dog shit accuracy because of a bunch of other factors.
Yeah, I think just to like give some context to it, on our main event team, we have Caleb Williams and we have Drake Maye. And pretty much every week we're going to start Drake Maye. But this week we were unanimously Caleb Williams. And I think that kind of says it all, where it's like, hey, in the right circumstance, we all recognize that Caleb has this awesome ceiling. I want to push back a little bit on the floor. You're right in that there's a floor there that he's going to throw like 200 yards a game almost no matter what, and he'll probably get a touchdown in there. So like there is a floor, but I want to make sure that we communicate it in a way that's helpful to people, where it's not a floor where you plug him into like a redraft lineup every week and you're like, yeah, I'm set it and forget it, Caleb Williams, baby. Like it's totally fine. It's like a floor where if you have him on a best ball team, he's going to stop you from getting totally goosed on a week. You know, you got like a Caleb Williams to a Geno Smith quarterback room. Like Caleb is the one that stops that from being like a 6-point week, you know, every once in a while when the other two bust. Like Caleb won't all the way bust like that. But it's also
I guess I'm saying more than that, where even in his bad games he's scoring like 15 points,
right?
Just because he has so many dropbacks.
Yeah,
like,
no, I think we're
saying such a high volume. And I guess I'm certainly not saying, which is maybe what you're softening, that he's going to score 30 points every week. Certainly not. Just that he has that in his bag because of the aggressiveness, the rushing, and the drop back count.
Speaking of having it in his bag, I think he's going to be able to grab some of those outcomes from his bag frequently over the next couple weeks. They get the Raiders, followed by the Commanders, followed by the Saints. So it seems pretty good. Now, then they get the Ravens after that, but then they're just right back to cakewalk. It's Bengals, and then you get the Giants, who are like, I don't think the Giants are actually quite as cakewalk. But yeah, so you have a pretty good, of their next 5 games, 4 of them seem really good. So I would be pretty into, I bet you that on our main event team, we certainly have some spots where we start Caleb over Maye over the next 5 weeks, is what I'll say.
Yeah. There's a couple of weeks. So like, after that, he has to play the Vikings again. Now, bearing in mind, he scored 24 points against them in week 1. So I don't know if that's like the worst scenario. Just because he had 35 attempts and he ran for 60 yards and a touchdown. I'm like, again, I guess I'm trying to say it carefully, but it's not quite plug him in your lineup every week. Never played a waiver wire, but there's certainly worse. I think that there are worse redraft starts at quarterback. Like
100%. Yeah, I think we like, for example, Caleb Williams or Baker Mayfield. Are they meaningfully different to you rest of season as far as like from a redraft lineup having to start the guy?
I mean, given so it depends. If we're talking about Baker Mayfield with the Bucs getting their Tristan Wirfs back, Godwin back, maybe Evans comes back, then they're probably pretty similar. I think I'm a little nervous about this iteration of Baker Mayfield that we're getting, where like everybody's banged up and he's having to make it work. I'm a little nervous, but I agree with you that they're pretty close. If you're willing to start Baker Mayfield, you should be willing to start Caleb Williams. No,
same with like for me personally, I'm probably Caleb over Kyler Murray, but like they're in a, if they're not in the same tier, then Kyler's at the top of the next tier and Caleb's kind of like in the middle,
right,
or above him, right?
Right.
But like they're all clearly over.
Better. I probably start him over Kyler if I'm being honest.
Yeah. And like also very clearly over like the tier of quarterbacks that are like Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, Bo Nix,
right.
Like all those guys. You're never really thinking about that. It's not even a matchup. It's not like, oh, this guy's a great matchup. It's like, no. You just start Caleb there.
Right. And then we can get into this a little bit more when we get into the receiver stuff. But I do think that means you should be willing to play Bears that are not named Rome Odunze. Like you should probably be willing to take a shot on Luther Burden this week in really high entry GPPs, because because he played so well and there is something there with the Bears. Like if we were talking about a team like the Panthers, you're never doing that in a million years. I guess what I'm saying is the offensive environment is there's enough there that the what do you win when you win is like it's pretty solid. I think it's pretty strong.
Yeah, and the other nice thing about playing Bears receivers is that the running backs aren't scoring any touchdowns, because that's got to be one of the worst running back rooms in the league.
Right.
With that, we should segue to running back here.
Probably. Yeah. Let's talk about the running backs. And so I gotta scroll out a little bit. And so my first note here was just some of these guys are clear kind of volume kings. CMC, Achane, Kamara, a JT. They just seem like a cut above when it comes to the volume. The one question I guess, the one hesitancy I have, like Tony Pollard is in that group. In terms of volume, he belongs in that group. And I know you were pretty bullish on Pollard because you rightly pointed out how good the volume was going to be, but it doesn't seem great that he's not that it's not kind of working right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of that is just the offense as a whole is having a lot of problems. I mean, it is your classic rookie quarterback woes. Like the vast majority of the time, if you have a rookie quarterback, you're going to have a bad offense. That is the unfortunate truth of rookie quarterbacks. Every once in a blue moon, we get one that bucks that trend, and then everyone forgets that rookie quarterbacks typically suck. But it's happening here. Cam Ward's stinking. He's out there stinking. He's making really bad mistakes. He's taking terrible sacks, turning the ball over. Now, the things that I will say in defense of Cam Ward, getting absolutely no help from his receivers. Calvin Ridley is dropping the ball like he is paid per drop right now. So even when Cam Ward gets out there and makes a sick throw, which he does do, That's not the thing that he's bad at. Cam Ward will get out there and make sick throws. He just also happens to suck at the whole playing quarterback part, which is a huge part of playing quarterback. If the whole game was, could you stand here and make sick throw after sick throw? He's got you all day. But when asked to do it in the context of like, now do it during an NFL game, that part's really difficult. And then it gets doubly difficult when the times that you do actually do something good in an NFL game, you're not even sure that your receiver is going to catch the ball. Like I was watching the game and was like, geez, maybe I'm like biased against Calvin Ridley. Maybe I'm just being a hater, but this guy stinks. He's dropping everything. And then Gretsch said the exact same thing in stealing signals. I was like, all right, I'm not a hater. Calvin Ridley just sucks. He couldn't catch a pass to save his life. So I think it's more just an indictment on the offense overall, rather than anything to do with Pollard specifically. It's really hard as a volume running back in a really bad offense. I mean, does Pollard has one touchdown this season. Like that's really like how you're going to get fantasy points. I mean, like as far as his total yardage, like he's 11th in the league in yards. You know, he's doing the thing. He's got better yards per attempt than Saquon Barkley right now. Like he's got better yards per attempt than Josh Jacobs, CMC, Bucky Irving. Like
so here's something a little, I guess, a little positive on Cam Ward. So week 1 PFF, they have like an accuracy rating, like what percentage of your passes do we think you threw accurately? So week 1 it was 60%, dog shit. Last week it was actually 75%, and they have him graded at where is it in passes attempt? They have him at 38 attempts for a 6 ADOT. So I guess that's better, but then his completion percentage was only 60%. So I think there's a lot to be said there where even with Cam Ward improved play, the receivers letting him down a lot, which kind of points to the dysfunctional offense. I think did I see Callahan gave up?
Yeah, so he relinquished play calling duty. So maybe you get a little shot in the arm there for the offense. I mean,
maybe not,
or maybe not.
Like, who's to say the next guy is better?
No, I mean my thought was, I mean, it's got to be hard to be worse than what they are currently doing. Did you catch this game and like what they did?
No, sorry.
Okay, so get this. So they're already struggling. They're struggling to move the ball. Right. It's the first half. It's not like they're not down 1 million or anything. Like it's early in the game, and they're in their opponent's territory, and they just come out for a 60-yard field goal. And they're like, yeah, fuck it, 60-yarder, let's bang it. Missed that one by 1 million yards. Never had a chance. Like from the second it left his foot, like the live odds of the kick going in were like plus 50 million, you know?
Right.
And so that happens. The kicker obviously not going to be good from 60.
What was the down and distance that they tried to the field goal from?
It was fourth and not
probably fourth and medium probably.
Yeah. Some teams would go for it, you know, but they
Yeah.
But I get that a punt was probably bad, and I get that the field goal attempt was okay, but like anyway. So after observing that, find themselves in a similar situation, 64-yard field goal attempt, and they trot that kicker right back out there, baby. It's just like, dude, what's happening here? Like, can we just go for it? Like, you're not gonna just go for it. You're already saying like we're down so bad that we just need to kick like Hail Mary field goals at any point. And it's like, dude, this is not all that different than going for it, because
your success percentage is,
and you're going to give better up the same exact field position than if you had gone
worse, actually.
Yeah, just go for it, man. So that was frustrating to me. But so my point is, maybe it gets a little better than that. I mean, even if you just adopt the pure like blind aggression of like, we go for it on every fourth down, 4th and 6 or less, you know, after we're past our own 40, like that's probably better than what they were currently doing. And this is just it's probably gonna be a team with growing pains because the way that it seems like Cam Ward wants to play, it's like Jordan Love when he first got starts looked similar-ish to this, where he like is a gunslinger, crazy arm, like gonna make some sick throws, but not like fully seasoned yet. But Jordan Love had sat for a long time behind very good quarterback, so he like got a chance to learn in the league. Cam Ward is just like they put him in the crock pot and they didn't even let that sucker heat up. They took the lid off right away and they were like, is it dinner time? It's like, no, it is not. It's not even close. Like the meat is still raw. Don't eat that. You will get sick. But they're trying to eat it and they're getting very sick right now. So maybe they microwave something up and get something borderline edible for him. Cause he could be fun. Like they could have some fun offense. All that to say that the volume you're getting from Tony Pollard is enough to like kind of give you that usable floor where for best ball it's pretty great. You're like, I get 9 points, like it's not, I'm not super excited about it, but it's a thing. It's preventing me from getting 5 points or 4 points, and then you have the ceiling where it's like the role is so good that if you get a couple good games from them or you just run hot on touchdowns, like you've got ceiling there. So he's obviously a cut below all these other volume kings like CMC, Achane, Kamara, JT. Although honestly, I would put Kamara and Pollard in a tier together where they're both in this dysfunctional offense. Really the thing that you have going for Kamara is the receiving. And then I actually don't think it's been all that different here. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up too. So Kamara had 2 targets last week. He did have 6 targets in week 2, 2 targets in week 1. So he's averaging like 3 targets a game, which is I don't think in an environment where they're dropping back 40 times a game, like that's not this is not what you paid for with Kamara.
No. His receiving usage has definitely fallen off a little bit. He's only got he has 4 more receiving yards than Pollard. Like you're not really getting a big gap here. And so that's why I think Kamara and Pollard being in this same tier where I don't think for Pollard he's like dusted on efficiency like Kamara is. No. I think it's more just like, hey, you're in a really
Pollard seems more like league average now, where he used to be well above league average.
Yes.
But he's a little older now, so league average is about where he's at.
And Kamara is getting more targets in the passing game than Pollard is getting, but it's nothing close to what we had come to expect from him. He's looking more washed as a receiver too. He's been washed as a rusher for a couple of years. Even through
Kamara is washed.
He was fine as a receiver, but this year it looks like we're at the end of the line for him. But him and Pollard kind of in that same tier of like, if you drafted these guys in best ball, they are serving the chaperone purpose for you. And then I think it's unfair to say, oh, Kamara doesn't have the ceiling, but Pollard does. Like Kamara could run hot on touchdown just in the same way that Pollard could, or like the offense getting slightly more functional. I just think you're more live with that happening for Pollard, given like the slightly better talent for him than Kamara at this point in their career.
He's more likely to make it happen for himself.
Yeah. All right, that's
the last guy in that you would kind of like. So obviously we love the Achane role. The Achane role is fantastic. And maybe I'll cut this to the chase. I was going to ask a question, but it sounds like you might have some concern that if McDaniels get fired, the Achane role is expired.
Well, we saw it last year it manifested in a different way through the Tua injury, where when Tua got injured, the Achane role where running through the air, where, hey, all these little Achane behind the line of scrimmage passes, they just don't happen anymore without Tua. That's my interpretation of that is that's fragile. It's very specific to the system that's being run. It requires Tua. It requires McDaniels. It requires, that has to be the plan. They're needing to, that's got to be a first principle of the offense for that to work. And so I think that it's pretty fragile in that if you lose Tua, if you lose McDaniels, there's a lot of possibility that it just goes tits up for Achane. And so I'm concerned about that. Now, that degree of concern is not high enough for me to be like if I'm in redraft and I have Achane, I'm not trading him. Like, you're not going to get the value. It's just like you're on the Titanic and you're heading for the iceberg, but you've had a vision of the iceberg.
The lifeboats are gone.
Yeah, you know that this is a problem, and so you're like, we've course corrected. And I think that we did it enough to miss the iceberg, but no one's trading you for the Titanic right now. No one's like, oh yeah, dude, I'll give you, 99 cents on the dollar for the Titanic. No,
right.
You're going to take 50 cents on the dollar.
Let me trade you Jonathan Taylor for Achane.
Yeah, no. So here's where you're at. If you got DeVon Achane on a redraft team, you just got to ride that course-corrected Titanic, baby. And you just got to pray. You pray that your adjustments are enough to miss that iceberg. Because if you miss the iceberg, you're on a luxury cruise liner, baby. You're cooking. But
right.
Yeah, it's a little dicey is how I feel about it.
So the only thing I in my head about the Achane risk and what it been connected with you, so one person who did get these scam points last year was Jonnu, and so Jonnu isn't on the team anymore. I know they have Malik Washington. I don't think Malik Washington is in the same category as Achane. I think some of it is just the offense is not very functional, and the ball has to go somewhere, and that somewhere is Achane, because he's the one guy where you can throw it to the check down to, and hope he makes something happen. I think he has maybe a little bit of a moat in that, because like I don't think they really have another option, but I like when you look at the stats from the Bills game, where it's just clearly a sign of this dysfunctional offense that's not working. They're force feeding this guy the ball for 4 yards per reception. It's not great. I agree with you where like volume that isn't working is fragile, but I don't think you're necessarily disagreeing with me. I do think there's a moat there, because like it's like, what else are they going to do?
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty much same page on him, where he's in a strong position. He's got a phenomenal role. We're just a little concerned about the fragility of the role, but like it's not so fragile, but there's definitely cause for concern. The other running back that I wanted to talk about in the context of, is it time to be worried about this guy, is Chase Brown. So, I mean, we lose Joe Burrow, and the offense understandably looks terrible. I really feel like Chase Brown had a pretty strong symbiotic relationship with the offense, where when things are going well, he's going to have a lot of touchdown equity. Like, it'll be easier to run for him. I know they play the Vikings, who are a good defense, but how worried are you about Chase Brown?
Like, relative to the price you paid, you've nothing to be worried about. You've lost it all already. Don't worry about it. It's money. It's money down the drain. Like, you can't let it hurt you twice. I think it's truly the case where he's like a 1A committee back in an offense that's not very good right now. And it's probably a lot similar to some of these kind of like more pedestrian offenses where they can kind of keep it afloat, but they need a really weak defenses to have the good games. Like, where's Chase Brown on this chart? So Chase Brown, he's still like
Kyren Williams range.
Yeah, so I guess he's still at that kind of like around 60% rate. It was lower in week 3. I think that's probably because Taj Brooks got a lot of
garbage time. Yeah. So
you're probably at that 60%, but even though he's really fast, and I chose to ignore this for a lot until now, he's not really been an overall efficient NFL player. So it kind of is what it is. I think he's probably, you're probably thinking about him similarly as you are to Tony Pollard.
Wow, that's a splash of cold water I was not expecting, but I don't think I disagree with you. I do love your phenomenal bedside manner where effectively you've told the man with terminal cancer who just told you, Dr. Dricko, I'm afraid to die. You said, oh, don't worry, you're already dead. Ain't nothing to be afraid of, son. Death comes to all. And it's here for Chase Brown is the unfortunate thing that I'm hearing from you. All right, let's talk about happier things, new beginnings, rookie running backs, springing forth from, the
ashes.
Yes. Man, we had some really fun ones here. One of the guys is going to be on the backup chart still just because of his small sample.
Well, start with Judkins because he's like the most surprising. Back from the dead. Where
actually, just go to the backup chart because I think all these guys are going to be here.
True.
We get Judkins, who just has the full bell cow role in Cleveland, like getting the vast majority of the touches now. They're using, now that Judkins is back, it actually looks a lot worse for Samson. Now that we have 2 games of it, it looks a lot worse for Samson than I thought it would. I kind of thought that Jerome Ford would eventually be the odd man out, and I do think that's going to be the case as the season progresses. But for right now, it's more that Samson is the odd man out, Judkins is the alpha, and Ford is coming in as that third down pass catcher type guy. Not that Judkins is necessarily leaving the field, in passing situations, but Ford's role is as like a passing down back.
Right. So week 3, Judkins is like in that 60% snap rate, and where he's leaving the field is the obvious passing down situations. But obviously, 60% snap rate, you're still going to have a passing role.
Yeah, he's still running a decent number of routes, and he is getting some targets, not a ton of targets right now, but that's something that's in his profile too, is he has the ability to do that. And I would not be surprised if, as he gets more and more acclimated to the offense, this is only his second game playing, right? He missed all of training camp. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that portion of the game is something where they are wanting to get more reps with him and more practice, where it's like, hey, we just want you to like be more familiar in pass pro, and we want you to, have a little bit more polish on this route running. Like, it very much could be something that he continues to grow in that area. And that's part of why I think the Judkins situation is so bullish. I mean, aside from the fact that he looks very good, he's had 2 big breakaway runs each game that he's played. He's a good tackle breaker. Like, he looks the part, and he did it against a really strong Packers run defense too. It's not like he's out here, running against bums. Like, so anyway, I think that Judkins is the real deal. He's of all the rookie running backs, Judkins, Skattebo, and Tootin, that cohort of guys, I think your favorite right now is Judkins. Skattebo's probably a very close second, or maybe even just like equal footing with Judkins.
Yeah. I think you feel pretty good about Skattebo too, especially in the context with Tyrone Tracy injury. You still have, I guess that's a little bit temporary, because he is expected back. You do still have Devin Singletary, who may not be at the stage of his career where he's a true threat, but I think Skattebo is probably in that similar 65% total snap rate, and obviously he looks really good too. And I think that's the thing that's most exciting. Like, I don't want it to just sound like we're just and I'm just quoting snap rates because like that's kind of usage. It's not like I'm just excited that Skattebo and Judkins have 65% snap rates now. It's also that they look awesome.
Yeah.
And that they're forcing the issue on these things early. And this is what the start of a great overall season looks like, in that player plays awesome, forces the team to use them more. They make plays for their team. They score touchdowns. Just generally very excited about the prospect for those guys going forward, given what they've shown already. And similar for Tootin. Tootin is he's probably not a 60% snap rate guy. I know his snap rate was actually lower last week than it was in week 2. Some people kind of noted that he was on the injury report, so maybe that pumps back up in week 4.
Just from watching that game, I think it was more that they just were in a bunch of situations where they wanted LaQuint Allen on the field, because they do very specifically seem to want Allen on the field in the passing downs, and they often had LaQuint Allen deployed that way. And you saw that his snaps went up. So I think that's more of what it was for Tootin. I did want to go back to Skattebo just to like highlight what a phenomenal, like he has a great role in that he's got the goal line work. Skattebo is like, I wouldn't be surprised if of all of the running backs in week 4, the one that has the most like traditional bell cow profile is Cam Skattebo, where he gets all the touches, all the work in the receiving game, the goal line carries, just everything. Like it would not surprise me to see Skattebo have 25 total attempts in week 4. Just to show like how good he is as well. Skattebo's currently 5th among running backs in yards per route run. The only people he's behind are Christian McCaffrey, Dylan Sampson, Ramondre Stevenson, and Jalen Warren. Like he's ahead of Bijan Robinson. He's ahead of DeVon Achane. He's ahead of TreVeyon Henderson and James Cook. Like Skattebo looks like the truth in the receiving game. He's very good. The other thing that's pretty great about Cam Skattebo is just watch the guy. Like he's so fun watching grown men bounce off of him. There's very few players in the league that break tackles in the way that he does, where it looks like he's made from a different material than the other people. Like there's really only a couple guys that actually look like that. I mean, even like when Derrick Henry breaks tackles, a lot of the time it's more just like, oh, this guy's running so fast and he's so big, like you had no chance. Or like, oh, he stiff-armed you from a million yards away. Skattebo's more like, I'm going to get in a car crash with you because I know that my body is made of adamantium and it doesn't matter. Like he's less finesse than some of these other like elusive tackle breaking freaks. He's just like, yeah, I was built in a lab and I know that you were not. You're mere flesh and bone and I am something greater. And so that's the thing that's pretty exciting about Skattebo is maybe eventually it comes back to bite him, because I don't know how a human can take the amount of punishment that this guy takes on. Like in a single run, he takes more punishment than some running backs take in a whole game. But what a beast.
Yeah, he certainly forces the issue. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. All right, that's enough.
It's probably something where you worry about it, maybe potentially in Dynasty, but you can't spend too much time thinking about it. Anybody else? We wanted to touch.
You had a couple good notes for like quick look at some of the other rookie running backs, like guys who are showing some potential. One that we have not been particularly interested in because he's not a good football player, but the role does seem to be making itself available to him, is Woody Marks. Still looks bad, watch Texans game, like he's not good. Now he looks better because he's getting to run next to Nick Chubb, so that is helpful as far as like role becoming available to him. The problem is bad. So when you have a guy that's bad, your ceiling is just capped, because it's like all that you have going for you is like, can he consolidate a bunch of work? The other problem with Woody Marks is he's not particularly big. He's also not a great between the tackles runner. So like consolidating work doesn't particularly seem in the cards for him. But you could get more work for him as the season goes on here. Mixon continues to miss time, which it's been total radio silence on him there. So I have to think that's kind of the status quo, as you just expect no Joe Mixon going forward. So,
and he has taken over the passing down stuff.
Yes.
So like he supplanted Dare. Like he's the passing down guy now.
Yeah, so that's the only positive stuff we can really say about Woody Marks. But like,
I think he's supposed to be a solid receiver too.
He is. He is.
So,
yeah.
But
he's had a couple good plays too as a receiver. They're not like his best receiving plays from my eye are not anything particularly special. Like, he caught a pass and had a lot of space and like made the most of the space. You know, it wasn't like he didn't go out there and like totally shit his pants on what should have been an otherwise good play. He got what I would expect out of my running back. Like, if I'm the coach on the sideline and I call that play and he turns in that result, I'm like, yes, that's what I expected. Good job. So like he had that going for him on that big reception that he had. But yeah, not terribly excited from a talent perspective, but he's very much worth like a waiver ad at this point. Like, he's someone where he could totally be, you know, like a flex fill-in kind of guy, or like have his role grow over the next couple weeks. So
right, and probably somewhere similar to how we'd feel about, let's say, LaQuint Allen, if not for Tootin.
Yeah, that's a great comp, actually. I like the LaQuint Allen profile a lot better, just like coming out than Woody Marks. So in a universe where it's just Travis Etienne, LaQuint Allen, I guess then I'm still pretty similar on Woody Marks versus LaQuint Allen, just because of the level of competition ahead of them. But like, in a world where they're both behind Travis Etienne, a clone of Travis Etienne on the Texans and Travis Etienne on the Jags, I'm probably LaQuint Allen over Woody Marks. But we don't live in that world. We live in the world where LaQuint Allen is probably totally buried for fantasy usefulness without an injury, and Woody Marks has a pretty clear path to fantasy usefulness. And so we're reasonably interested in Woody Marks. Like, he's a guy I'm happy to.
He's a good waiver
off waivers.
Like
yeah.
you said.
We talked about TreVeyon Henderson a decent amount already. I think what you're hoping for this week is the pass game stuff. You want TreVeyon Henderson to be the Patriots' answer to passing the ball, like running a lot of routes out of the backfield, lining up in the slot and running routes. Like, that's what you want, because they need it desperately. And I think that's the path of least resistance for him as well. And then that can easily turn into, hey, this guy's really good. We like him. Let's just give him more carries. And then maybe he gets a chance to earn more carries. He looks better running the ball than he has so far. I don't think that's far-fetched at all, but that to me is like the path of least resistance, what you're looking for TreVeyon Henderson. You had another note on Bill Krosky-Merritt. He does lead the team in snaps. Chris Rodriguez does get the first snap, which is extraordinarily important for people who, before the season, were adamant that Chris Rodriguez was going to be the lead back in Washington. Huge W for them that he got the first snap. Unfortunately, there are very, very few formats nowadays where we get points per first snap. But in those formats, those analysts are very, very wealthy men. In the real world, however, they are not, because Bill Krosky-Merritt is the one leading the team in snaps. He's also the one that got the goal line touch, where he did convert that for a touchdown. The Commanders also have come out and just said, we think that Bill is going to be our RB1 over the course of the season. I just think that the plan was to let him cook a little bit. Like, let's let him marinate behind, Austin Eckler. And we've got other guys that we think are competent. Like, we like McNichols, we can use these other guys. And then as Bill gets more and more developed, we'll work him in more. And the timeline just got sped up with the Eckler Achilles injury. And so you end up with it being more of a split right now than I would anticipate as the season progresses. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him basically in like a carbon copy of the Brian Robinson role from last year. And it does look like he's going to not be as involved in the passing game. That's probably something where you get more, Jerry McNichols there. But I don't think that long and short of it is, I think Bill's a pretty solid hold at this point. Like, he's obviously not going to be.
You've got, the way I put it is, you've got green shoots there.
Yes.
Where like you said, he led the team in running back snaps last week. He had 8 attempts. He had the most route. He had a good amount of routes as well. I'm probably over exaggerating by saying the most routes.
Yeah, it was only. I think it was only 23% route rate, so not
okay.
spectacular.
He had 7 routes. Okay, yeah, not. But he still had 7 of them. Which
Yeah,
I guess they didn't throw too much. And so you probably also get a phenomenon there where the blowout kind of masks what his true usage would have been in a competitive game.
Yep. I think that's a very, very reasonable analysis there. I don't think there's anyone else to touch on. Oh, I did have one last note here. Go to the starter chart real quick.
Yep.
This one's important. Look where Jalen Warren is right now. He's right between James Cook and Jordan Mason. The James Cook role is what it is. That's what you're getting from James Cook. If anything, it probably scales back a little bit because this is like a high for James Cook relative to where he was last year. I'd anticipate his role to come down a little bit as far as like his total snaps and usage. Jalen Warren, on the other hand, is moving the other direction right now. If Jalen Warren had his same week 3 role for the rest of, like if he gets that going forward, you're going to see him up in the Josh Jacobs level snaps, Saquon, Bucky Irving, like up in that neck of the woods on this chart. So Jalen Warren is, he's probably a pretty easy buy still because he hasn't put up a monster game or anything, but he just seems like it's wheels up for him. The competition's Kenny Gainwell, which is just nothing, and Caleb Johnson is 6 feet under. So Jalen Warren's a pretty strong buy in my mind, and I don't think he's going to be as expensive as he should be. He's just like he's not going to get into the bell cow category probably that these like top guys like the CMC, Achane, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan level, but he's going to be the category right below that. And I think that's pretty exciting. What if you have Jalen Warren on best ball teams right now, like he's probably going to be one of the bigger cost adjusted wins of the season. He's basically around the cost of like, I would say a 6th round back right now, like late 5th, early 6th. And he was just going like 8th round instead. And so it's a pretty monster win on Jalen Warren. He's one too where I still think that you could probably pull one over on your opponents in home leagues and get him in a trade for relatively cheap. So wanted to comment on that.
No, good note for sure. Yeah, I think we've covered who we wanted to cover. I guess the one thing we should note is who's the Cardinals guy? We don't have this.
Oh, James Conner, yeah.
So James Conner got injured, and then and the other Cardinals guy, the guy who they have left now,
Trey Benson.
He's probably going to be on the starter chart.
I think he's already on the starter chart.
Oh, he's already on the
He's
already on the starter chart. You're right.
Yeah,
he's probably going to be at the top of the starters chart.
He's probably not on your waivers, but if he is, he's the first like 100% of your fab guy of the season.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And then let's moving on. So the most striking thing to me on this one is we've got Otton here. The receivers for the Tampa Bay Bucks, they've been walking wounded and fallen by the wayside. He's getting all the routes, and he's still not getting targeted. Like the way he got there last year was on this kind of contingent upside, and that isn't materializing so far, which to me it is pretty disappointing. Maybe they can work him in more to the game plan around Cade Otton.
I think this is the inflection point for him where we'll either see it this week or it's gone. It was a mirage last year or just something that's not going to repeat. But this is just I bet a lot of people will have the same thought. It's not rocket science. Mike Evans is out. There's a bunch of targets to go around here. Cade Otton seems like a place where they could land. But man, I kind of think I want to lean into it. I still will not forget. I can't remember exactly what week it was last year. Maybe it was week 5. That sounds right to me. But I was talking to Jay Fresh, and he's telling me, about some high stakes team that he played. And he goes, yeah, I like stacked. I did like a Bucks onslaught with like Cade Otton and Rashad White or something. I was like, oh, that sounds terrible, man. You put like real American dollars behind that. And that was the week where Cade Otton went absolutely nuclear at low ownership. And so I'm not going to forget that. And if this is a spot where the field overlooks it because he's done nothing so far this year, it's one where I just want to hit it really hard. And if it misses, it misses. And I'll take my lumps knowing that I got a decent shot on goal with it. But I think this is the spot where you just take a leap of faith on it. You're like, I haven't seen it yet. There's reason to believe that he's probably stinks because we probably should have seen it already this year. But we did see it last year in a similar circumstance. So if the market will give me this at, a low ownership, then I'm willing to jump.
Makes sense. And then what else did we have at tight end? So we had Andrews back from the dead. He obviously had the big game last night where he didn't look like 100% Mark Andrews, but close enough to do some damage. I think it was pretty interesting that it came in a game where Zay Flowers was kind of erased. So maybe it was as a result of the Lions being pretty effective in taking Zay Flowers away. That then Mark Andrews was kind of the secondary target, along with Bateman. But in games where, and maybe this is too much pattern reading, but in games where Zay Flowers gets going, they don't need Andrews as much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's pretty on the nose. The Mark Andrews game, while it was a very good game, does get a little inflated by the absolute garbage time touchdown where he's just open and gets like a 30-yard score or something at the very end of the game as the Ravens are trying to mount a very improbable onside kick comeback that does not turn out. So yeah, Mark Andrews back from the dead, but I don't know that he's like fully among the living yet. But yeah, he's at least someone where you're like, there's a pulse there, like if you're had him on a main event team before this week, you're like, God, can I ever start this guy? And now at least you're like, yeah, there's times where I could theoretically start this guy. Like if I really need someone to plug in, like I at least know that there's some chance that he gets me something.
The next guy I had a note on was Tyler Warren, where I almost feel like people without Tyler Warren have kind of gotten away with it so far, just because the Colts keep like blowing teams out. In games where it's a lot more competitive and they have to use him more, I could see him doing an absolute blow up.
Yeah, I mean, he does lead the Colts in targets right now. Michael Pittman's not too far behind. 21 targets to 19 targets. And then you have Josh Downs with 14. I do think that you're right that Tyler Warren, could have really, really big games in games where the Colts are pushed. I mean, they really didn't have to throw very many passes in this last game. I think it was 25 attempts or something little like that. But I don't know that it's always going to I'm just hesitant to say it's going to flow through Warren in those games. Like I do think that in games where they're pushed, it's probably equally likely to flow through Warren or Pittman or Downs. And so that's kind of
maybe, but he does have a very good route count. And he's also he's combining that with 26% target spread run, which is very, very strong. Very strong. Actually, I don't have Pittman's numbers in front of me. I'll pull that up.
Yeah, it's more that Warren and Pittman operate in the same area of the
22%.
Field. If you look at the target depth charting by PFF, Warren and Pittman are do the same thing. They fill the same.
Right. They're similar. They're like 5 or 6 yards at A-dot.
And so
I don't know. I like Michael Pittman is a solid NFL player. I think you're looking at like a very, very good rookie here who could very well be on his way to being one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And I'm obviously tight end premium minded, full disclosure, which is not the most helpful for everybody. But I guess you can see Michael Pittman similar games, but I think what I'd say is respectfully, Tyler Warren is not Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I'm I want to see more before I like crown Tyler Warren as like he's going to dominate the targets over Pittman. Right now, it looks like kind of a split between them, and then Josh Downs is operating slightly further down the field than those guys, where I think those are more like your short area possession guys, and Josh Downs is more like Josh Downs can operate at all 3 levels. He's like can do the short stuff, he can do the intermediate stuff, and he can operate downfield as well. He's kind of Jayden Reed-esque in that, where he's like a full, he's a wide receiver that can go do everything. And so the problem with Josh Downs, where I would say like Pittman and Warren have the advantage as far as like, hey, if you're asking me who the offense flowed through in a specific game, like I would bet Pittman and Warren over Downs. It's just that Downs is not on the field as much as them. He's not getting the same number of pass snaps. But I think it's probably like 40% Pittman, 40% Warren, 20% Downs as far as like the probability of them being the leading receiver in a given game for the Colts. And obviously, because you get the tight end designation for Warren, that's a huge boon for him, right? Like that's if I'm saying Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren are similar, but I would give the edge to Warren for like, hey, he's a rookie, he could keep getting better, like he's right stuff for us. You obviously clearly prefer him to Pittman. I just don't want to get so far out over our skis on it, where so far it does look like they're a little more similar than the narrative would have you believe. But I mean, that's really
it is kind of like
it's kind of picking bits though. It's like cool nerd. Like now get stuff in the locker by Tyler Warren. Like I think it's probably just being a little bit too pedantic about it, and it doesn't really matter. And Tyler Warren's just going to be awesome for where you drafted him. But I wanted to give that context to it.
Yeah. You could see a big Michael Pittman game too. That's fair. I think it's more likely that Tyler Warren, and like you're saying, it's tight end. He got tight end eligibility, so it's more valuable. But understood. Then you had a note here about time to worry about Bowers and McBride. Elite tight end gone bad.
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this because I've talked to a couple people about this, but I wanted to get your take on the Bowers and McBride circumstances.
So the McBride is the easy one, where like you're just not worried at all. Where the underlying usage is there, he even caught a touchdown last week. The offensive environment isn't the best, but the usage is that strong that, and the long view on the talent of McBride is there, like zero concern. And Bowers, I mean, the only thing that gives me a little bit of concern on Bowers, and I'll say to the front, is that he might be injured. Like you've got 2 floor games in a row from him now, after he sustained the knee injury. I hope that he recovers well from that soon. I'm probably a little bit less worried about the overall offensive environment for Bowers in the context of the Raiders, where the passing game, if you just take the average through the first 3 weeks, has been pretty strong for the Raiders. I know, like against the Chargers, they struggled. They did struggle. But if you look at like kind of like just the full season passing efficiency overall, it's been strong. Geno's been good. I think he probably like I said last week, he holds the ball too long, so he takes some sacks. Maybe that forces some bad throws where he has to throw under pressure where he otherwise wouldn't. But the yards per attempt overall, the environment is good. We know Brock Bowers is awesome. It just you've got some concern where he's injured there, and you hope that he recovers from that, and we need to keep an eye on that. Is what I'd say.
I think I'm pretty lockstep with you on both of them there. I think the one place where we differ is I'm more concerned about offensive environment on both of those teams. Just from watching them, I fear that the Cardinals are just one of the worst teams in the league, and they've played some of the worst teams in the league already. And so I think that could be masking how bad they actually are. I think we might be about to see things go from bad to worse for the Cardinals. They have the thing they have going for them is they have competent quarterback play. It's not like Kyler's among the best in the league, but he's definitely a competent quarterback. So that's good. And then really that's like what the Raiders have going for them as well. Like Geno is a competent NFL quarterback. He's someone that I would happily have on my team as the guy to run the offense. The problem there is I'm pretty concerned that I think the Raiders coaching staff might not know what the fuck they're doing. I think that they just it looks like they might be a little lost out there. Like I don't know if the game has passed by old Pete, but I'm worried that the marriage between Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll is like the exact worst. Like it's bringing out the worst of both of them. It's my concern. Now this could all be like getting exacerbated because of the Bowers injury. Like it might just be looking worse because of that. Because the stark difference to me is that in week 1, what I saw was every snap Geno looked to Bowers first immediately.
Right. And
then like either threw it or went off him. And even on the routes where it was like longer developing stuff to Bowers, like, hey, this is going to be a deep shot 20 yards down the field to Bowers. He still looked at him to be like, are you going to win your route? And then he'd like progress through everything else. Be like, anything else? Nope. Okay, back to Bowers. Boom. I'm throwing the thing that was the plan the whole time. That was week 1. Week 2, he didn't look to Bowers hardly at all in the first half as his first look. And I do think that was intentional because of the knee injury. But then it kind of persisted in week 3. And I know the double coverage rate has been high on Bowers. I didn't get to see the double coverage rate for week 3 yet. When I looked, that data point was not available. So I'll have to go back and check. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see the double coverage rate be high on him again. I'm just worried. I'm just worried that they might not be utilizing their best player in the smartest way.
Yeah, I think he's probably just hurt. He's probably just not playing at 100% effectiveness. And
I mean, that can explain everything. That could explain it all. It's also the reason I'm like hesitant to accept that for myself is that's exactly the copium that I would tell myself for like, it's okay that you have 20%.
I mean, it doesn't to me, that's potentially worse in that, like he's playing through an injury that could potentially like, re-aggravate. I like we're not out of the woods. But I'm not like I don't think that the coaching staff is like that bad. Like they may not be geniuses, but I don't think they're like so dumb that they're like, oh, let's de-emphasize Brock Bowers. Like they know he's their best player. Like I know they know that, and I don't think. I think they could be like a D coaching staff or a C coaching staff. I don't think they're an F coaching staff where they're like so bad they just do like obviously stupid like worst things imaginable. Like they can still make mistakes, but I don't think they're that bad.
And you know what? Here's like kind of my gripe with him. Now week 1, his snap rate was a little lower. But we're seeing his inline percentage increase week over week and his slot and out wide percentage decrease. And maybe that does play into what you're saying about, hey, the guy has an injury he's playing through. And so they're like, we're just not going to have you run as many of these deep concepts, these more wide receiver-ish routes. We're going to have you do more tight end stuff because, you're not quite as mobile right now. But his inline rate has gone up the last 2 weeks from week 1, and he was so effective running from the slot and out wide. It's like, could we go back to that?
I think he'd be pretty effective from inline as well. I think he's good enough that I'm not necessarily worried about that. And honestly, I think the reason that he's probably playing more inline, or especially week 3. So yeah, he played 40 inline snaps in week 3. Is Myers had to leave the game early?
That's a great point. Yeah.
He's their primary inline only guy. So it could have been in response to that. And honestly, I kind of don't care where maybe I'm just too Brock Bowers built. I don't care where he lines up. I think fully healthy Brock Bowers just is that good that he destroys people.
Yeah. Brock, if you hear us, we sure could use it, buddy. Can you go out there and just show us a real healthy Brock Bowers game? We're not asking for much. We just 10 receptions, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. That would do. No big game or anything like that.
But for floor games, I know the yardage is a little low. And again, I'm probably just tight end premium pilled. These seem like okay floor games for premium receivers. I remember Julio Jones had games like this. AJ Brown has games like this. Justin Jefferson has games like Jamar Chase. All of these guys, they have games where they're a little quieter and they're only scoring 10 points or so. That happens. I like I said, I hope he recovers from the injury, and like you, I hope we get a smash game soon.
Yeah, I mean he's on pace basically for 1,000 yards still receiving. So you can't panic that much, but boy, it would be nice to have a big smash game. All right, 2 quick tight end comments here before we move on. Jake Ferguson, I mean, if week 3 was any indication of what the Cowboys offense is going to do with CeeDee Lamb injured, it looks like they might just build the plane out of death by 1,000 Jake Ferguson checkdowns, because he feasted. You want to talk about tight end premium? My goodness, Jake Ferguson. What did he end with? Was it 13, 14 receptions? It was.
I think it was 13, yeah.
It was quite a lot. Yeah, I think it was 13 targets, 13 receptions too. Or no, sorry, 14 targets, 13 receptions. He did have one that didn't connect, but man, it wouldn't surprise me to see that continue. We've seen it in the past where Dak is really
kind of outrageous.
It's super outrageous.
So he only ran 62% of routes, but he had a 48% targets per route run with a 3.38 odd. That's insane.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a function of a broken offense?
Yeah, I think that there's 2 ways that the Cowboys trying to. Maybe there's a third, but I don't think the third's going to work super well because they lost Tyler Booker. But there's 3 ways they could try and address this dysfunctional offense without CeeDee Lamb. Number 1 is we simply pretend George Pickens is CeeDee Lamb. What if we just pretended that George Pickens was the alpha? Can we do this? That's option number 1. Option number 2 is, what if we let George Pickens do George Pickens things and Jake Ferguson becomes our possession receiver, and there's just a bunch of little outlet bullshit to George Pickens or to Jake Ferguson. And then option number 3 is, what if we simply establish it? Don't think option number 3 is going to work with offensive line injuries. I think that they'd be in for a very bad time if they try to go that route. And also, Schottenheimer hasn't really shown tendency that he wants to be the establish it kind of guy. He wants to pass the ball. So I think you're going to get one of option 1 or option 2. So all that to say that Jake Ferguson is probably going to be a pretty good play for these next couple weeks with no CD Lamb.
The volume's going to probably be pretty good. Probably pretty good. I don't think he's very good. I don't think an offense can sustain itself on throwing the Jake Ferguson on half his routes. But certainly you can forecast the target volume there.
It'll work for fantasy. Last guy that I wanted to touch on, talking about floor games that you don't think are all that bad. Harold Fannin, the box score doesn't look as good as the actual game was. And before anyone is telling me that this is just Harold Fannin cope, you're just so crazy about this rookie tight end. Harold Fannin had, I believe it was 2 different plays that got taken away, 1 on or 2 on penalty, I believe, or they were just awesome plays. Like it was a 3rd and forever, and Harold Fannin gets a reception well short of the sticks and breaks like 5 tackles to get the first down. Ultimately gets called back due to penalty. He ends up with 25 receiving yards, 4 targets, 3 receptions. His route rate was the lowest this week that it has been. So that was, you don't love to see that. But I'm not terribly concerned about Fannin. I think that, he's a rookie in his 3rd week. I think that we'll probably continue to see the role grow for him.
This feels pretty fine as a 4 game where they're playing one of the best defenses in the NFL. He sees his lowest route rate so far. He gets a couple of big plays taken away by penalties, and he's still getting four targets. And I think he catches each of those targets. So he's still like as a medium, as a tight end 12. That still kind of works in your lineup.
And Harold Fannin on the season so far, more receptions, more receiving yards, more fantasy points than Jerry Jeudy. So, you simply cannot say that Harold Fannin is not a major part of the offense unless you're willing to say that Jerry Jeudy is not a major part.
I do think a substantial part of his rest of season value is the equity from the potential that what's his name? The other Njoku is not there to the end of the year. I think Fannin can probably take over, even if Njoku is around. But it's like I think the biggest takeaway so far is just the talent is so strong. The talent will find a way here, I think.
Yeah, we don't want to get too into
the details of it.
Exactly. Yeah, we might not be able to tell you exactly how it's going to happen, but we can tell you it seems likely to happen because he's their best pass catcher,
Right. Okay. Let's move on to. We're not going to waste any time on the backup tight end chart this week. No time at all. So my first note is we've got kind of continued elite usage for JSN. Sam Darnold looks like Viking Sam Darnold so far, which is kind of surprising. I'm almost like my question here is JSN just a star now?
Yes. To answer your question,
I think so.
Yeah.
And in rest of the season stuff, he should be a first round pick.
Yep, absolutely. He would go after Puka, but he probably goes. I mean, with the CD injury, he clearly goes ahead of CD. He goes ahead of Nabers for me. He's ahead of Nico. It's probably right. JSN and Amon-Ra are basically would go right behind Puka. Neither of them should be ahead of Puka, but go right behind Puka in my mind.
So is Puka wide receiver 1 then for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds right to me. I didn't want to assume it, but you're talking about wide receiver 1 true like wide receiver forward there.
Yep. And then you have Jefferson and Chase that kind of, I think Jefferson and Chase still get to live in the same tier as JSN. And Amon-Ra, just because of the Amon-Ra and JSN have a much better situation than those two, just with competent quarterback play. But those two have such insane talent that it might not matter. They may just overcome it. It's very easy to see that. The other one that I think is pretty fun is just while we're on the topic of Puka, let me ask you a couple guys here, and you tell me who you want, one versus the other. Rest of the season, you got to have these guys on your team for the rest of the year. Davante Adams or Nico Collins?
Nico.
Okay. Davante Adams or Malik Nabers?
Malik Nabers. You're using the wrong guy in Davante Adams. I'm gonna have a hard time saying that guy. Have you looked at the Davante Adams numbers, man? Like I have. They more than anything in the world want Davante Adams to be a thing. The problem is every time I see them, like I see a clip where it's like, oh, and the throws to Davante Adams. Oh no, Davante Adams isn't that good anymore. And that didn't work out too well. And then occasionally it's, oh, thank God, it worked out that they threw the Matthew Stafford threw to Davante Adams. Man. I don't know. I think after a while the patience on it is going to go chin. I think, like I said, I think more than anything in the world, they want Davante Adams to work out. I don't like. I guess the volume is strong enough that it is kind of working out right now. I don't know if that will continue.
Yeah, I think we're just seeing different things on Davante Adams. We'll have to agree to disagree on that one. He looks pretty good to me still. But we can move on to a different receiver. You had a note here on Nabers that I think is going to be really important in these coming weeks. Nabers gets the quarterback change with Jaxson Dart coming in. And
okay, so sorry, Davante Adams, 28 targets. Tell me how many of those 28 targets has he caught so far?
I want to say 18.
13.
13. Okay.
And for 213 yards. So like he's
because average depth of target is deep. They're targeting him downfield. He's got 12.7 ADOT. Like he's not getting these little. Puka gets a bunch of the stuff that's closer to the line of scrimmage, easier to convert. Like Davante is more their downfield guy.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It just like the yard per target, the yards per target there, and it's still like for how deep he's getting it from Stafford as well. It's not like the targets are coming from like Bryce Young or something like that. They're coming from Stafford. So like for the most part, these are pretty accurate targets. We can move on. We can move on. We disagree on that.
Yeah, we'll hit Malik Nabers though, because my read on this is I think that the easy thing to do is to say, oh my gosh, thank goodness, no more Russell Wilson. Malik Nabers is saved. Free Malik Nabers, and that's what I want to be the thing that happens, right? Like I, as much as any other red-blooded American, want to see Malik Nabers get 15 targets a game and just go out there and cook people. However, I am pretty concerned that there are a bunch of different hurdles that you're needing to overcome for this to be a positive for Malik Nabers. The first one is that you need Brian Daboll to allow Jaxson Dart to throw. The reason I'm concerned about that is in all of the Dart packages that we've gotten so far, he hasn't even really been allowed to attempt passes. They're all just like read options. And so I don't really know. I'm not super encouraged by like how much they feel like he's ready to run a full offense. I worry we might get a really, really watered down version of the offense where the pass attempts are super low. You know, you get a healthy helping of Skattebo and then Dart runs a bunch himself and then they pass only very occasionally. So that's the first hurdle. The second hurdle is you need Jaxson Dart to be better than Russell Wilson, which as president of the Russell Wilson hater club, you'd probably be surprised to hear me say that that's not a sure thing. But I mean, we talked about this earlier with Cam Ward. Rookie quarterbacks, your base case is that this guy sucks in the NFL, at least for a while. It's really rare that you're going to have a guy come out and be good, let alone competent. Like, most rookie quarterbacks are not going to do something that's even going to be remotely good for you for fantasy, and let alone, be able to support their receivers. So I'm pretty concerned on that front too for Nabers. All that being said, I think there's reason for optimism with Dart. But I think you'll do a much better job with the Dart optimist case than I ever could. And so I want to turn it over to you for the rosiness.
Yeah. So, let's start with and this is going to be a surprise for anyone. But the Dart talent is that he's a gunslinger. He was a gunslinger in college. He was a gunslinger in preseason. And he's also a pretty good rusher. I think where Dart could work out differently and better than Russell Wilson is that he's a much more dynamic player. Russell Wilson is a very one-dimensional player, where he still has the fastball, but he's and maybe that's a bad analogy, but he's not able to throw anything else. I think Dart can do a couple of things that Russell Wilson can't. Like, he's a much more effective rusher, so defenses are going to have to respect that more. Like you mentioned, he can run the read option. They can probably run a pretty good play action game. I think that he can probably throw it short more effectively than Russell Wilson. That might open up some other stuff. I do agree with you that there's risk here in that rookies usually tend to struggle at the gate. Like, it's normal for them to struggle. And with that in mind, Dable could decide that he wants to wrap the young star quarterback in Boa wrap, so that he doesn't put too much on his plate. So they call more conservative game plan. I think that's probably pretty likely. Then when I come back to Russell Wilson, the one kind of Russell Wilson caveat is that Russell Wilson has been pretty bad. Like, even when I put in, like, his full season stuff is like fine bad, but you get to include the Cowboys game with that. And let me pull up his Sorry, I'm still pulling up. So in week 2 against the Cowboys, Russell Wilson had a 10.3 adjusted yards per dropback. In week 1, it was 3.7. In week 3, it was 1.9.
Oh my God.
So it's like, how bad does Dart have to be worse than Russell Wilson? Pretty damn bad. Like, even with the caveat that rookies struggle at the gate, I think he can do better than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well put. So what you're telling me is that all my money that I'm losing this week is going to be absolutely jamming the Giants and Chargers game, because I really want to play both sides of that. You know that I want to play me some Justin Herbert. You know I want to play some Malik Nabers. I'll probably have a hard time playing Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting. I mean, he got announced as starter after the salaries came out, probably. So, like, he's probably like,
that's true. He's probably in
cheap
price, yeah.
But that probably carries ownership. Yeah. And then,
I mean,
I guess
you could also sell me on some Wandale. Say that it's
Right.
if they do decide to let Dart throw it more, that Wandale, supreme target earner Wandale, operator at all depths of the field Wandale, could also get there in a way that's going to be less. The field's going to be less excited to play Wandale. Everyone's going to be excited to play Malik Nabers with Jaxson Dart. Yeah. You're not going to get that same excitement for Wandale Robinson with Jaxson Dart. Unless, you were a sidekick drafter, then you're like, fuck yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson. I click that guy all the time.
Right. Yeah. And then you throw in that the Chargers are absolutely going to throw all over the Giants.
Yeah.
So like it's like, yeah, that their intention may be to hide Dart, but like when intention meets reality, is like that is not how it's going to work out. Like we talk all the time in preseason, like their intention is to do this, but then the season actually happens. I don't know. Like I'm more bullish than you, but I have a feeling that I'm a much more mainstream opinion. So if you're trying to play, I don't know if it's contrarian play. So like it's like how you kind of want it to be a contrarian play because you have the downside stuff that you noted, like where you've got the wide range of outcomes. But the upside, I think the upside case is pretty good.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all I want to cover on this wide receiver chart. There are a couple guys on the next one that I think are worth talking about here.
Yes, agreed. No, we kind of covered all of these guys in the last couple of weeks.
So there's Puka. We talked about Puka already as the overall wide receiver one rest of season. There's a guy here that is going to be gross to a lot of people, but I think that it's a spot worth exploiting here. That's Tyreek Hill. Now, I know you're probably not used to seeing Tyreek Hill have Nabers on the chart like Tyquan Thornton and Wan'Dale Robinson. Like that probably seems like a bad sign. When you're in the company of Wan'Dale Robinson and I'm telling you, don't worry, this is a good thing for Tyreek Hill. But I promise there's reason for optimism. And while we saw that against the Bills, it really seemed like the Dolphins had this super boring, like, oh my God, how many more times can we get a 4-yard reception to DeVon Achane? It was opening up their ability to throw deep to Tyreek Hill more. It just didn't quite convert all the way in this game. But Tyreek got a bunch of opportunity. He got 10 targets and 140-something air yards. I don't have the exact number pulled up. Let me take a look at it. 10 targets and 145 air yards this past week. Previous week, still a ton of air yards. He's like over 100, like 111, 115 air yards in the previous week. So he's getting targeted down the field. His ADOT is up. Like, for example, if you go back to 2024, the Tyreek Hill ADOT had dropped quite a bit. It was down below 12. It was 11.9, which is very, very low for him. If you look at his really good seasons, like he's up at 12.6. So far in 2025, he's almost to a 15 ADOT. He's at 14.8. Granted, it's through 3 games. It's kind of small sample. But what I'm saying is, I think
a buy low model would fucking love Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's really what I'm getting at. Like, you just need a game where it clicks for the Dolphins and they're able to put it together. And I think that
it doesn't look like he's lost a step, really.
No, yeah, I think that it's worth pursuing here, just because the ceiling is so slate breaking. He gets the Jets. The other thing too about the Jets is that I feel like the Sauce Gardner matchup like carries some boogeyman aspect for people, and he hasn't really been as shut down as I think. Like the perception of like, oh, my receiver's playing in Sauce Gardner, that's so bad. It's like, I mean, yeah, Sauce Gardner's a good corner, but it's not like, I mean, Mike Evans still did pretty well against him last week. He could have done even better. I believe he had a play called back from penalty, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I would not shy away from Tyreek here. Now, granted, it's a Monday night game, so you're not going to get it on the main slate. So this is more just like, hey, in your home league, feel free playing Tyreek Hill. But anyway, just wanted to shout that out. You do get the Panthers after that. So maybe if he doesn't blow up against the Jets, you get him on the main slate against the Panthers defense. You also get Chargers Dolphins 2 weeks from now. that sounds like that'll be pretty fun. That could be an explosive game. But anyway, I just wanted to leave the light on for Tyreek Hill that ceiling seems like it still exists. We just haven't gotten to see that outcome yet this season. And so that's a spot where I'm interested.
Yeah, agreed. And then one of my notes here was kind of like which receivers have been, so which of the rookies have been kind of increasing their route share. The one I do notice is that after kind of like smoke discussion of getting Burden more usage, he crept up from like a pretty bad 10% route share to a 30% route share at week 3, and obviously completely rewarded the team with it. So he justified his playing time by like showing out. I'm kind of expecting that playing time to increase given how well he's played. Do want to see him continue to play well, but pretty encouraging there.
He's very JMO coded to me in the Ben Johnson offense, where JMO wasn't someone where they were willing to kind of give him the keys to the car at first. It was like, all right, you got to prove that you're responsible. But when they got him out there, they wanted to like see what he had. It was like a design play for him. They're running a play with him in mind, and that was how it was for Burden as well. And so I think that you probably end up with like one of these high targets per route run, lower total number of routes and snaps type guys. But that's kind of the archetype that we're chasing, because when it turns into, oh, this guy's a full-time player and he's just a beast, like that's really exactly what you're trying to capture with it. So I agree with you that you probably see an increase for Burden. It might be the kind of thing where it like doesn't happen quite as fast as we want it to, because we get this little breakout here, but on pretty small route volume. And you're right. Like, oh, surely.
It might be closer to like the Rashi breakout pattern.
Yeah.
Where it's like they play him a couple times and it's like, this guy is so fucking good. Play him more, please. And it takes them a little bit longer than we want to, but it's in by the end of the year. Like it's established by the end of the year.
Yeah, you would not surprise me at all if you told me that by week 16, Luther Burden is the leading receiver on the Bears. Like he's the guy where, the highest priced player for Bears wide receiver is Luther Burden, and then Rome Odunze, and then DJ Moore. Like DJ Moore seems like he is squarely in the cuck chair at this point. It seems not great.
Yeah, he's still getting points, but he's getting pretty squeezed.
Yeah, he seems like the guy where it would come from his share. To if Burden were to be earning more, like they seem to really like Odunze. They do like Olamide Zaccheaus. Like I'm not saying that Olamide Zaccheaus is going to steal routes or anything from DJ Moore, but like I wouldn't expect him to fully go away. And so bullish for Burden though.
So the next couple of guys I had on my notes was Jayden Higgins. Jayden Higgins still, like, he was at 40% before. He's still at 36% even with Christian Kirk back. But I guess it's still something to keep monitoring, but it's not happening right now. On the other hand, Tory Horton. So Tory Horton in week 2 was at 51% route share. In week 3, he was at 76%. So that's a pretty good positive kind of like trend line for you there. He matched that 76% route share with a 25% targets per route run. I guess that's only 4 targets versus JSN 6 and 32. 30. He only got 32 yards, but that's to me that's pretty encouraging overall for a rookie receiver.
Super encouraging for Tory Horton. Yeah, he's someone you're very excited. If he's on your waivers, he's a really good ad. He's probably someone where it's going to be hard for the outcomes where he becomes a guy that you're plugging into your redraft lineup are thin. They just don't happen at a very high rate because you have JSN who's so target dominant there. and Cooper Kupp won't fully go away, I think, regardless of how washed he is. Like, I do think that he's the kind of player where he'll hang on for a while here. And so it's going to be tough for Tory Horton to be someone you could actually start. He's someone you're pretty stoked to have in best ball. And he's definitely like an exciting guy to have. If you've got a roster spot that you need to fill with someone with some upside, Tory Horton's cool. He probably ultimately turns into a guy that you churn off your roster when something better comes along. But he's like a great, space holder right now. He's like, yep, there's a chance.
Yeah. He's a good.
Great happens for Tory Horton.
He's a good churn target where you pick him up because you see what you get. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you've got he's probably available on a lot of waivers, and there's good upside there.
Yep.
My next guy was Jalen Lane. So Jalen Lane, he was at 32% route rate week 1, up to 52% week 2, up to similar at 48% in week 3. But then he combines that with a 27% target spread run. That's 3 targets on a 15 ADOT, so 45 air yards. You combine that with the Terry McLaurin injury, that could be pretty interesting. Like this is kind of like a little bit of an opposite situation where you're going to have a lot of dropbacks. They're not going to blow people out every week. You've got kind of vacated targets there. You target vacuum with McLaurin out. You're probably going to get a pretty good look at Jalen Lane here. They were already kind of trusting him. I know it didn't work out for them, but they did throw to him on that 4th down against the Packers on a gotta have it 4th down. So like, I think that's pretty interesting too.
Yeah, I think Lane's a better ad than Horton just because your path is clearer right now for like he could earn. There's just not a lot of competition there. It's like Terry McLaurin and Debo, and Terry's out, and you could easily see Lane like carve out a role in an offense that's going to be a little more pass heavy than the Seahawks and not have someone as target dominant as JSN there. And Lane looks electric, man. He looks great. Both him and Horton have had huge special teams plays. They're really exciting. But yeah, if you maybe pick just one to add to my roster right now, it's Jalen Lane. But Tory Horton is a consolation prize if I don't get Lane. Totally happy with that as well.
Yeah, agreed. And then you had a note about not enjoying what you're seeing with Christian Kirk.
No, yeah, it's not pretty. He looks old. Shocker. Old receiver who's been injured the last few seasons looks old in debut off injury. I mean, I'm not shouldn't be breaking news, but here's the frustrating thing. The Texans seem to not care that they've spent 2nd and 3rd round draft capital on rookie receivers. They're just like rolling out their bad players instead. And so I get that they probably had to do it with Christian Kirk. We're like, oh, we traded the draft pick for this guy and like we're paying him money. But it doesn't really make sense with the Xavier Hutchinson stuff. Like that's not really a thing that I would. Yeah. Anyway, Texans are pretty frustrating. Their rookie receivers, I like the profile on both of them. I like Higgins and Knoll. I think both were really good talents coming out in the draft. I'm just really concerned that the Texans might not be a serious organization. Like it just may be curtains for fantasy value from that team for another year, frustratingly, because I don't really think it's fair to put it on CJ Stroud, given what he's had to deal with from a play calling standpoint and an offensive line standpoint, certainly in 2024. And then I don't want to like jump the gun here in 2025, but there's not a lot that's giving me cause for optimism so far. Like the game plan of like, what if we just get rid of our best offensive linemen and do nothing about it in the draft seems to be going as you would expect that to go. But I just psyop myself this offseason into thinking that's such a stupid fucking plan that surely they know better. Like, surely they know better, and it's such a clearly, obviously bad plan that they knew they had something in the free agents they brought in. We were like, yeah, the market got these guys wrong. Like, we can totally put together a functional product out of these players. That was my read, where it's like, they can't, the behavior makes no sense. If it's not something where they're not like damn sure about it, not drafting a guy makes no fucking sense, right? Turns out they just don't know what they're doing. Like, so seems bad. It seems really bad, man. I'm like, my panic meter's like it's probably like 9 out of 10 on the Texans, honestly. Like, entire Texans offense, full stop, for fantasy value. Like, I'm greatly concerned. So yeah, even though the competition blocking the rookies seems poor from Christian Kirk, Xavier Hutchinson, it's like it probably doesn't matter, because this is just one of those teams. Gretsch has done really awesome work writing about this in the past, but it's just that there are teams where you just want all the pieces on that team because it's a super functional offense, and there are teams where it's not fertile ground. Nothing grows there. You don't, it doesn't matter that the player's the wide receiver 1 on that team. That team doesn't score fantasy points. So it's like, neat that you've got the wide receiver 1 on a team that scores you no points. And then it obviously gets worse the further down the pecking order you get. That's my kind of read on the Texans right now. I hope I'm not being too doomer on them, but I feel like it's justified.
Yeah, I don't have much to add there. That all makes sense. And then on the topic of kind of quick hitters here, I don't know who's holding on to DeAndre Hopkins in redraft, but you should cut him. He had 21% routes last night. Like, Tylan Wallace is the tight end, is actually the receiver tree at 63% route share. So yeah, DeAndre Hopkins does not belong in a single roster right now.
Well, hang on. That's unfair. In your points per exactly 2 targets per game leagues, DeAndre Hopkins is a smash because he gets exactly 2 targets every game. But yeah, the reason I wasn't willing to call it totally done for him last week was week 1, he saw more routes than week 2. He saw very few. He's down in that, like, I think 30% range. I was like,
20%.
There's a blowout against the Browns. Like, you don't need to use DeAndre Hopkins. Like, you save that guy for the play. It's like, nope. They don't really need to use DeAndre Hopkins at all. They weren't saving him. It was
right. He's the mentor.
Yeah. It's like the leftovers in the fridge, you're like, oh, I was, I wasn't having it. I was saving it for you. It's like, no. You didn't need to save that for any. Please eat the leftovers. Like, just finish it.
Right. You can eat the 2-day-old lasagna.
Yeah. So DeAndre Hopkins, unfortunately, is the 2-day-old lasagna. He is very much droppable. If you have him on best ball rosters, at least he scored some touchdowns already for you. So yeah, it's curtains for that. That's not a roster spot you're getting back.
Yeah. I think that covers us.
Yeah, flip to the last chart really quick because you had one note on. I don't even know if this guy makes the chart yet. Yeah, he doesn't even make the chart. Kyle Williams. Yeah, not on the chart yet.
You cut him.
I mean, yeah, you can cut him, but like, not at all remotely useful for redraft. Like, not even on the watch list currently for redraft. But I guess the only thing I have to say about him is this kind of the same stuff that we talked about for TreVeyon Henderson, and like his path to relevance being through the receiving game because the Patriots need answers there. Like, that's what you're hoping for with Kyle Williams. I think we talked about that already, but like, it's going to take a while. It's not a.
Yeah, he's at a 17% rate right now.
Yeah, the cupboard's bare though. Competition's low. But I mean, like, shit. You see Steph Diggs on this chart. You see Demario Douglas on this chart. The Patriots are just rolling out a bunch of guys that they could not wait to replace with any viable option. So we'll have to see on that one.
Yeah. It just I don't think you can hang on to a rookie that's still at 17% route share.
No, he's a roster clogger. You just cut him.
Yeah. I promise you, if he creeps up to 40%, we'll tell you. And nobody else is going to be bidding for a 40% route share Kyle Williams.
Yeah, but for right now, you look at the guy in the top right corner of this chart. You go get your Tory Horton. You get your Jalen Lane. That's what you're looking for right now.
Yep. I guess I don't have anything much else to add other than the Travis Hunter usage is bad. It's confusing. I don't have any special analysis as to make it make sense. It just maybe they have to use them more to make their offense work, but that's not what they're doing right now.
My special analysis is avoid Shane Waldron at all costs. Like, treat that man like the plague. If he's somewhere next year, right. I will meaningfully dock those receivers in any kind of projection that I'm doing next year. Like, if he has any kind of say, I'm worried. So
when he gets reincarnated, it's not going to be something good.
Oh man. All right. That's a great note to end on. Thank you for tuning in with us for week 3 here. We will be right back here next Tuesday for week 4, same time. And good luck this week, everybody. I hope you play a lot of Justin Herbert, just not in the contest that I am in.
See you next week, everyone.